Thank you for joining us. I'm Morgan Harris. President Carter spent 4 years in the White House, but his impact continued for decades, and including here in St. Louis. First Alert 4's John Kipper looks at his legacy in politics and beyond.
Yeah, Morgan. Speaking with former U.S. Senator John Danforth on the phone today, he says President Carter was totally committed to anything he did. And one example of that is longtime work for Habitat for Humanity. Now, local Habitat leaders say tonight the former president helped put their organization on a global scale.
One of the greatest lessons that President Carter teaches us all is that if you're passionate about something, you can get involved in it.
Harper Zelanka with Habitat for Humanity St. Louis says President Jimmy Carter and his wife Rosalind were fierce advocates for their organization. With his Carter Work Project, he aided in building over 4,000 homes, often going to disaster areas to rebuild. Something she saw firsthand in Iowa years ago.
And they were out there in sweltering heat, building along with other volunteers, and they were probably in their 80s at that point.
Carter died Sunday at the age of 100 after being in hospice care for over 1 year. He made numerous trips to St. Louis, including in 1979 as president, when he came into town on the Delta Queen riverboat, before ending his trip with a speech at the Arch.
Could not possibly end in a more beautiful place and a more exciting place than under this tremendous arch here at St. Louis.
Nearly 2 decades later, in 1997, he sat down with KMOV's Julius Hunter, promoting his book, while also defending his presidency.
I feel quite at ease, with my record as a president.
While the interview was 27 years ago, Carter's thoughts on negative political advertising remain prescient today.
If we had ever tried to tear down the reputation of our opponent, it would have been political suicide for me. We talked about what we were going to do if and when we got into the White House rather than how bad our opponent was.
While many will remember Carter's presidency with mixed reviews, his post-presidency platform of affordable housing for all will remain a strong part of his legacy.
He believed that was a fundamental human right every person should have access to.
And Danforth added, President Carter was a particularly detail-oriented person, something he says did not make him a great president, but a quality that made him a great former president, particularly his work with Habitat for Humanity. Reporting in studio, John Kipper, First Alert 4.
All right, John, thank you. Local leaders are also sharing their thoughts on the death of President Carter. Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois released a statement saying Jimmy Carter proved that excellence in public service can extend beyond the White House. His life was an inspiration to those of us who aspire to lead a life of service. Missouri Congresswoman Ann Wagner is also remembering the former president. She says, quote, President Carter was a humble public servant who dealt with many challenges during his tenure and spent his post-presidential life deeply invested in giving back to his community.